If you have any chat questions, go ahead and use the chat box and type them in there, and I will read those questions off to the participants at the end of the presentation. I am recording this presentation, and it will be shared on YouTube once closed captioning is complete. The person who's asking if you can record this, actually I'll be recording it, and I'll send out an email to everyone who's registered when the link is live on YouTube. So we'll go that way. We do that with all our presentations. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself really quickly. This is a Kernel of Knowledge webinar. It's a series from the National Network of Libraries of Medicine here at the University of Iowa. We serve the greater Midwest region of the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, hence the Kernel in our Kernel of Knowledge webinar series. My name is Bobby Newman. I'm the Community Engagement and Outreach Specialist here. And as maybe you can tell, I have a little bronchitis, so I will not be talking very much today, and hopefully I will be able to mute myself before I cough. I'm going to go ahead and get you introduced to your presenters today. I know they have a great program they're going to be sharing with you. First is Glenna. She's the Life Enrichment Liaison at the Gail Borden Public Library District. She has a background in developing leadership programming for at-risk students in grades 5 through 8. Glenna directed the creation of 15 original operas from scratch as an artist-in-residence program at Eldridge Community College for 15 years. She has extensive experience in dementia care and currently designs and implements library programming for senior nursing, assisted living facilities, as well as residential developmental facilities and developmental day programs. And Ben was the Library on the Go manager at the Gail Borden Public Library District in Elgin, Illinois. He has a new position, and I'll let him explain that to you. He supervised a team of five responsible for developing programming and services to customers of all ages across the library district, which spans more than 65 square miles and serves approximately 150,000 residents. He's been with Gail Borden since 2015 and earned his MLS from Dominican in 2015. Mary Beth is a retired librarian. She resigned in 2008 from a position as university librarian for Roosevelt University in Chicago to care for her husband with young onset dementia. She then developed a series of book and reading programs for people with dementia titled Tales and Travel, which is currently being offered by the Gail Borden Public Library at 10 memory care facilities in Elgin, Illinois. She has also served for 5 years on the leadership team of the Alzheimer's and Related Dementias Interest Group of the American Library Association. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Mary Beth, if you'd like to share yours.
Okay. Are you seeing it?
Not yet.
Sorry. Okay. There?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you, Bobby, for your kind introductions. Ben, Glenna, and I are thrilled to have this opportunity to talk with you as public and medical librarians who are committed to promoting healthy communities about one of the top health concerns in this country that tends to get overlooked. Goodness. Sorry, sorry. Did you know that the Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Alzheimer's Association? Did you know that over 5.5 million Americans were living with Alzheimer's in 2017? And that number could basically triple to 16 million by 2050? This slide shows projections for all 50 states over the next 8 years. Did you know that 1 in 10 Americans, 65 years and older, has Alzheimer's? Perhaps some of you have been affected personally by Alzheimer's or a related dementia yourselves, as I have been. So let's start with the basics. What is dementia? One definition from the Alzheimer's Association is that dementia is an umbrella term describing a variety of diseases and conditions that develop when nerve cells in the brain, called neurons, die or no longer function normally. The death or malfunction of neurons causes changes in one's memory, behavior, language, and ability to think clearly. While 60 to 80% of those living with dementia have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, with the traditional short-term memory loss, there are many other types of dementia, including vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal degeneration, of which my husband's disease was a subset. A significant number of people are being diagnosed with young onset dementia as early as their 40s and 50s. There are also several stages of dementia: early, middle, and late. Frequently, people are not even diagnosed until they have entered the middle stage. Progression of dementia can be fairly fast or last for up to 2 decades. There are tremendous amounts of variation. So it is safe to say that when you have met one person with dementia, you have met one person with dementia. This is obviously a huge and expensive problem that our society is facing. The federal government is finally realizing that we need to plan now for this coming explosion, especially as the baby boomer generation ages. In January 2011, the National Alzheimer's Project Act, or NAPA, was signed into law. The law calls for the creation of a national plan to coordinate research efforts, accelerate the development of treatments, and improve diagnosis and coordination of care, among other activities. Individual states are also developing their own plans. It has been well documented that there continues to be a stigma associated with dementia. Fear of the label keeps people unnecessarily from treatment and the opportunity to make plans in advance. It also keeps the general public uneducated about this disease and how it affects the person, their family, and the wider community. When I was caring for my husband, I was aware of how important it was to provide him with meaningful activities that maintained his dignity and self-esteem. If there is one thing that you take away from my portion of this webinar, I hope it is the idea that people with dementia are just that, people. By focusing on each person as an individual with their own past interests and current abilities, we can do much to combat that stigma. The gold standard of care for persons with dementia that is now emerging is called person-centered care. This involves treating the whole person, including all the aspects shown here in this graphic. According to the Alzheimer's Society, which is the British counterpart to the Alzheimer's Association here in the States, the key points of person-centered care are: 1, treating the person with dignity and respect; 2, understanding their history, lifestyle, culture, and preferences, including their likes, dislikes, hobbies, and interests; 3, looking at situations from the point of view of the person with dementia; 4, providing opportunities for the person to have conversations and relationships with other people; and 5, ensuring the person has the chance to try new things or take part in activities they enjoy. It is a misconception that people diagnosed with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia can no longer read. Research bears this out. Michelle S. Bourgeois, professor in the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders at the University of South Florida, states, "All my research demonstrates that people who were literate maintain their ability to read until the end stages of dementia." As early as 2007, the International Federation of Library Associations, or IFLA, developed their guidelines for library services to persons with dementia, based on the efforts of librarians in the Netherlands and the United Kingdom, who advocated for the use of books and reading with this population. The University of Liverpool's Center for Research into Reading, Information, and Linguistic Systems published a study on their reading-based intervention in May 2012. They indicate that, quote, "The major conclusion from sources both qualitative and quantitative is that reading group activity produces a significant reduction in dementia symptoms. Staff interviews indicated a contribution of reading groups to well-being. Specifically, there are strong indications that the power of literary language can both trigger relevant past experience and prompt fresh acts of thought," unquote. So, What can librarians do to make a difference in the lives of those in their communities living with dementia? It's my belief that we can take a page from the efforts of other professionals, such as music and art therapists, who use their specialties to improve the quality of life for people with dementia. You have probably run across stories on television or in the newspaper about how drama therapy, nature therapy, or pet therapy have brought joy to people diagnosed with dementia. The medical community call these non-pharmacological interventions. So I thought, why not add books and reading? Starting when I retired in 2008, I delivered the Tales and Travel program for 2 years by myself as a volunteer at a local memory care facility. Tales and Travel is a 1-hour program designed to take individuals in the early or mid stages of dementia on an imaginary trip to another country or part of the United States using library materials. The program engages them both socially and cognitively. As the program proved quite successful, I wanted to share this idea with other librarians. I eventually found some very enthusiastic partners in the librarians at the Gail Borden Public Library in Elgin, Illinois. Tales and Travel is now offered at, I believe, 10 assisted living facilities within the Gail Borden Library District. Before I turn the program over to our next speaker, I'd like to share a few communication tips that I have utilized when presenting the Tales and Travel program to groups living in memory care facilities. It's important to build trust and rapport with the participants. This can be done simply by greeting each person individually as they come into the room. Approach the person from the front if possible, moving slowly. Smile at them and offer your hand for them to shake. Get down to their level if they are seated and make eye contact. Introduce yourself saying something like, "Hi, my name is Mary Beth. I'm here from the library. What's your name?" If possible, make simple name tags that you can put on the table in front of them so you can address them by name throughout the program. When the group is assembled, introduce yourself again, stating that you have brought books and stories from the library so that we can all go on an imaginary trip to another country. Speak clearly and slowly with a voice that is loud enough for the group to hear you. You don't have to shout. Use simple vocabulary and short sentences. Be enthusiastic and have fun. During the browsing part of the program, feel free to walk around and engage the participants in conversation by asking simple questions about what they're looking at in the books. It's better to avoid open-ended questions. Be patient, as it may take them some time to start speaking or finish a thought. Use active listening skills and pay attention to their body language. Many of the participants are eager to talk about memories triggered by the program. This opportunity to engage in one-on-one conversation is an extremely important part of Tales and Travel. I will now turn the program over to Ben, who will tell you more about how the Tales and Travel Memories program works in action. So Ben, are you ready?
I am ready. Just bringing up the portion of the talk that's mine. Let's see here. There we go. So thank you, Mary Beth and Bobby, for hosting this, and Mary Beth for leading off. As Bobby mentioned, my position here at the library has recently changed. I've transferred into the Information Services Department, where I get to go back to my roots, I guess, as a librarian. So that's kind of nice for me. And as Mary Beth mentioned, Tales and Travel Memories is just one way to connect with an often underserved group, and it is a book and literacy-based program for older adults with Alzheimer's disease or other dementias. And as Mary Beth also mentioned, it is aimed particularly at retaining reading ability while socializing with others. And that reading ability is retained long into the end stages of the disease. Tales and Travel Memories is a lot of things. It is grant funded, and you can see here a list of the monetary awards and grants that the project has received over the last few years. We also receive funding from donations to the Karen Mackey Fund for memory programs, care of the Gale Borden Public Library District, and donation information can be found on the Tales and Travel website. It's also award-winning. These are just a few. We've received several awards since its inception in 2013 under Mary Beth, and most recently, it was identified as a 2017 Library of Congress Literacy Awards Best Practice Honoree. That's a mouthful. And only 15 organizations or programs across the country were included as a Best Practice Honoree in 2017. So it really is a very prestigious, honor. And it's study-powered. We partnered with Dr. Susan Wessner of Judson University here in Elgin to conduct a study to prove that Tales and Travel does what we thought it would. And the 2015 target grant that I mentioned earlier required a study to explore what we thought would happen with Tales and Travel, that Tales and Travel would engage and improve the cognitive and social interactions of individuals with dementia, that it would positively impact the relationship between caregivers and individuals with dementia by providing stimulating activities and reducing the number of stressful interactions, that Tales and Travel would expand the library's engagement with an underserved population, and that it would decrease stigma and stereotypes of adults with dementia by demonstrating elements of cognition that remain throughout the course of the disease. And there are a couple of things that touch on this success. The target grant was administered by the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, and you can see from the pie chart that nearly 80% of respondents report an excellent success rate. So Tales and Travel Memories does what it purports to do. It has a lot of really positive results, as you can see: socialization, positive emotions, cognitive skills like verbalization, recall, reading ability, emotional response, and even volunteers note an improved perception of individuals with dementia after participating. So it's not just the residents of an assisted living community in a memory care unit, it's also the volunteers that are being served by this program. So as part of her study, Dr. Wessner also attended Tales and Travel memory programs to get a sense of the project. And she shared a memorable scene with us. A volunteer started the program by telling a folk story that included several animals. The participants then chose a book, and while the books were being read, volunteers shared memorabilia from Canada: leaves, flags, stuffed animals, to name a few. I happened to be reading with an individual who was alert but had difficulty speaking clearly. When a small bear was passed around, the participant's eyes lit up and he stopped reading. While the individual was trying to verbally explain something to me that I could not understand, he was pointing to the bear and the hallway. I said, "You must have a similar bear in your room." He nodded. I worked my way around the room, and a few minutes later, I noticed the individual was no longer present. I figured he was finished with the program. However, about 10 minutes later, the individual came back to the table with several items: a basket full of stuffed animals and a 3-foot bear that was the same type as the smaller bear the volunteers had passed around earlier. As I approached this individual, he was removing each smaller stuffed animal from the basket, and I realized that each animal represented one that was in the folktale that was read at the beginning of the program. This behavior was evidence to me that the individual, who our society may assume is unaware due to memory loss and lack of verbal communication, had been cognitively stimulated and engaged in this program. The individual wanted to participate by sharing his treasures with the group. The act of sharing demonstrated to me that, first, the participant heard and understood the folktale. Second, the participant visually connected an object with objects in his room. And third, he wanted to bring them back to connect his experience with the group socially. So I wrote a little bit of anecdotal evidence from Dr. Susan Wessner. So how does it work? There are a couple of variations of Tales and Travel Memories. In one, volunteers pick up materials at the library and travel to assisted living communities to deliver a program. And that's the program that Mary Beth touched on earlier and that Glenna will be really get into the nuts and bolts on in a bit. And in the other version, customers can come to the library to check out a kit. And that would be books, CDs, a globe so people can know where they're going, got to know where you're going, and how to use this kit. And that kind of helps with people who are new to care for people with dementia, and also for just kind of an orientation session on the kit. We've got a lot of different destinations like China, Africa, France, Germany, and we're planning more as we go. And you can find a fuller list of those destinations with folk tales on our website, which is talesandtravelmemories.com. Some of the materials that we use in Tales and Travel Memories are books. As we mentioned earlier, it is a book and literacy focused program. And when we talk about books, there are several types. This slide shows the adult collection. Many items work well for participants, and adult materials like the ones pictured here offer a lot of really solid information and great photos, but text may be too small or academic in nature for some readers. A second option are the children's collection and middle school or junior high materials. These are often intended for middle school students, but offer a middle ground for Tales and Travel participants. They contain vibrant images and sound information and research, but can be a bit more digestible for readers. And finally, we have a primary level collection. These contain eye-catching photos and are usually written at a very accessible level. Can appeal to participants, particularly since information is given in simpler terms and smaller chunks. An added benefit to primary level materials is that they are often physically smaller and lighter, so participants with dexterity or strength challenges can still turn pages. A point to remember with each of the previous materials categories is that no one group will appeal to all participants. It's important to carry a variety of items, such as because each participant is individual. Our next slide is a video sample of Tales and Travel in action.
He still enjoys reading stories out loud, just as he used to do for her children and friends. Several years ago, he was diagnosed with a form of dementia. He now lives in a memory care facility. May is participating in an innovative book and reading program called Tales and Travel. Each month, library staff or volunteers from the Gale Borden Public Library in Elgin, Illinois, take persons living in care facilities on an imaginary trip to a different country or U.S. state using library materials. Libraries are a perfect partner for memory care facilities. Most communities have a public library whose mission is to serve everyone living within its boundaries. Memory care centers, daycare centers, and even individual caregivers are always looking for ways to stimulate and engage people afflicted with devastating illness. Libraries are a treasure trove of wonderful material. Care professionals and individual caregivers can use at no charge. The Tales and Travel program has proven to be a success with both residents and care staff at residential facilities. Libraries throughout the country are encouraged to try implementing a simple program such as this one in their local communities. A relatively small investment of time and resources can yield wonderful results.
So with that, I'll hand off the presentation to Glenna Gadinsky, who is the library's Life Enrichment Liaison.
Thank you, Ben. And now we'll share a bit more about the experiences that we've had in implementing Tales and Travel in our Gale Borden Public Library District in Elgin, Illinois. As Bobby mentioned earlier, our district serves 150,000 patrons over a 65 square mile area. With a team of 6 regular volunteers and myself as a staff member, we present Tales and Travel at 7 different memory care communities each month. On average, we're providing group presentations that allow for quality one-on-one interaction with 70 individuals each month. Our schedule is designed on a 2-month rotation. That means if you're a memory care center and we come to your community in January, we will skip February and be back in March. During the month of February, our volunteer teams will visit another separate set of 7 memory care centers. In looking at our total numbers across January and February, which is our 2-month rotation, we're visiting a grand total of 14 different locations and visiting with 140 on average different individuals. This schedule has developed over a course of 4 years, and we stress the importance of starting small and growing responsibly to always ensure that quality programming and interactions are taking place. Tales and Travel is unique in the way it encourages those with dementia and their caregivers to continue to enjoy literacy through books and discussions. In turn, this offers empowerment while living in the moment. As Ben spoke about earlier, the program was developed by Mary Beth Reidner and Gail Borden Public Library District, Karen Mackey, and Miriam Lytle. The Tales and Travel program most recently received the Library of Congress Literacy Award Best Practice Honoree on November 20, 2017. So we're really pleased to have had that happen. Moving on to the next slide here. Tales and Travel is as evidence-based research. We've been able to document the positive effects the program has had on participants while diminishing the stigma of dementia. As Ben mentioned, the Tales and Travel program allows participants to take an imaginary trip to a foreign country using books with large, colorful photography that can be found in the children's nonfiction collection and in the adult collection. Supplementary items also help bring the country to life. Tales and Travel circulating kits contain the same type of books and supplementary materials that are used in the Tales and Travel programs. Tales and Travel circulating kits may be checked out by caregivers for up to 28 days to use at home while caring for a loved one with dementia, or to take to a residential community when visiting a loved one. What does a Tales and Travel program look like? Well, the aspects of the Tales and Travel program can be adapted to each specific audience on the spot. More time can be spent on one activity and less on another based on interest. Gail Borden Public Library District provides downloadable, free-use, copyright-free fact sheets and folk tales on the Tales and Travel website. This is the page you will see when you click Excursions, that button, on our website. From here, you can choose the country you plan to visit and print facts about that country as well as a folk tale from that country. Assembling a Tales and Travel kit. The materials that go into a circulating kit are similar to the materials we use when we give a program. Circulating kits contain 5 books, while presentation kits contain around 15 to 20 books, so that each participant has a book to browse and discuss before trading with a neighbor. You can draw from weeded and donated items in your community just to keep the development costs low. Powered by volunteers. If you already have volunteers who are assembling supplies for your children's programming, there won't be much difference in assembling Tales and Travel programs and kits. We do draw from both the children and adult collections. Social and cognitive engagement increases. The social emotional value of providing a Tales and Travel programming visit serves not only the patron with dementia, as Ben mentioned, it supports the activity staff in senior residential communities, it supports home caregivers, and it provides the volunteers with a sense of accomplishment and connection. The positive mood in the room as a group discusses and listens to stories from a foreign country is contagious, even for those who are further advanced in their dementia. The stigma of dementia decreases and isolation decreases. As activity staff see the level of engagement that residents have with Tales and Travel folk tales, they'll often encourage their participants to take a turn reading. Those with dementia are often able to read until the final stage. By participating in group activities, isolation is decreased. We've discovered that vision slips gradually and magnification can help. We have found that there's a handful of folks out there who had stopped reading because their vision had changed enough to make it uncomfortable. When provided with magnifiers, these patrons found it enjoyable to read again. These are some quotes from some of the people that we've visited with recently in doing our programs. I was going to stay in my room, but then I heard the library was coming. I love the stories you bring. Another one was, this was the best program I've ever attended. And then, you gotta love the library. That one I heard as I was getting on the elevator to leave, as the door was closing. You gotta love the library. So those are all wonderful testimonials. Next, this is support that we use in Illinois. And in a moment, Mary Beth will talk to the national stage level of support that's out there. But this Illinois group of community service and outreach library personnel meets 4 times per year at rotating locations. Accessibility is increased through video conferencing. For example, the May 18 and July 20, 2018 meetings this year will take place in Burr Ridge, Illinois, but will be video conferenced to the Rockford Rails location, among other locations. We share program ideas for what we're currently presenting, and we collaborate on ways to serve the unique needs of those with dementia as well as their caregivers. So you are certainly invited to join us. Now I'll turn the microphone back over to Mary Beth Reidner, who will elaborate on what's happening on the national stage.
So we're going to stop sharing our screen now, Mary Beth.
Okay. All right, I hope you can see this one about the Alzheimer's and related dementias interest group. As Glenna said, we have a number of national resources that may be of interest to you as you get started working with people with dementia. Sorry. The Alzheimer's and Related Dementias Interest Group, or IGARD, is an interest group of ASCLA, which is a division of the American Library Association. It was established in 2013, and we have over 50 members from across the nation. Our formal mission is to focus on creating, disseminating, and implementing guidelines for library services to people living with Alzheimer's and related dementias. But our informal mission is to identify and coordinate the efforts of librarians as they provide services and programming directly to these people, not just to their caregivers. IGARD has its own webpage, which is shown here, and a free listserv. On the webpage, you will see present leadership, links to best practices, information about upcoming conferences, as well as news sources and related resources. And why am I not getting the way to go forward? Sorry. Here's information about how to join IGARD and the free listserv, and I believe you'll be able to access this slide later, so you don't need to copy this down now. There is also a fairly new nationwide initiative called Dementia Friendly America, or DFA, that appears to be a natural ally to IGARD's efforts. There are now communities in 28 states across the country moving forward toward becoming dementia friendly. This is a collaborative effort uniting all aspects of a community, including government bodies, first responders, businesses, faith communities, legal and financial services, health services, and community organizations. When I first learned about DFA, there appeared to be something critical missing: the public library. That has since been corrected, and DFA has added a sector guide for libraries outlining a wide variety of ways that librarians can add value to the dementia-friendly movement. Here are links to some resources and websites that you might find useful, and again, you can refer to these later. But before I close, I'd like to make it clear that the Tales and Travel program, while quite successful and hopefully easy to replicate, is only one way to reach out to persons with dementia. The only limit is the creativity, abilities, and energy of the librarians and volunteers in your libraries. Librarians across the country are already doing some very creative things, utilizing music, poetry, and technology, as well as providing meeting space for memory cafes and caregiver support groups. I hope that you might be motivated to add similar services and programs to your library. Start small, grow the program over time as you get more comfortable, partner with related agencies in your area for training or conducting a program, network with other library colleagues, take a few risks, and enjoy yourself. Do whatever works for you, your staff, and your community. Working with this population is very rewarding. They are all just people like you and me who want to be valued as human beings, to be treated with respect, and to be given opportunities to participate in life as much as possible. Our society is just beginning to wake up to the realization that we need to be ready to care for the large numbers of people who are and will be affected by some kind of dementia. There is a role for librarians to play as community leaders to be at the forefront of planning for truly dementia-friendly libraries. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll pass it back over to Bobby, I believe.
Yeah, sure. We can. You can pass it back over to me. So we've got some time for questions, everybody. Thank you, Mary Beth, Glenna, and Ben. You gave us a lot to think about. There was some great data in that presentation, as well as a lot of ideas for how to make outreach programming or a Tales and Travel type programming work at your library, both as outreach and as a checkout kit. And give everybody a little time to go ahead and type some questions into the chat box. I will read them out to our presenters. So if you have anything you'd like to know, now is the time to ask. Would like to remind everybody that, as Ben pointed out, the National Network of Libraries of Medicine did provide some funding for part of this project, which we're very proud to have done. Excuse me. And our new funding cycle is about to start. We'll be putting out our awards, our call for proposals or applications for awards soon. So let me ask, so somebody is asking in the comments section, are there kits near Eagle River, Wisconsin? Are other libraries doing these kits?
Yes, we've worked with a number of different libraries across the United States and Canada. So each library is interested in developing what they have from their collections and also tailoring that toward their specific audiences. So yes, there's a good chance that there is something out there. And certainly at the end of this webinar, we'll have our contact information. We are really happy to work with you. We can give specific information and we can kind of brainstorm together. So please be in touch with us.
And I would add that if there aren't kits or a library that doesn't have kits near you, I would talk to your library staff, talk to your librarians, and say, I'd like to start a kit for a dementia-friendly community here. I'd like to build a Tales and Travel style kit, and all those resources, or some starter resources, I should say, are on our website at www.talesandtravelmemories.com.
And I'm looking at that website right now, and the excursions tab has a sort of a great list of the different places that you can go and the guides. I'm going to post that in the chat really quickly. Oops, that was not the correct. Oh, it's because I'm working on two computers and not one computer with two screens. Okay, let me read another question. Can you please let me know which libraries in Canada are doing this? Do you have a list of all the libraries that are doing this?
We've been working most recently with Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I do have a list, which I'm happy, if you'd like to get in touch with me, I can then forward that to you. I don't have the list in front of me here, unfortunately, but we'll be happy to provide that.
So that's not something that's necessarily on the website?
Not as of now, no. We don't publish the contacts that we have, but I do have a list that I'm happy to share.
That makes sense. We have another question. Somebody asked, I mentioned those excursion sheets, and somebody said, so we can do these ourselves using these excursion data sheets?
That's correct. All we ask is that if you do choose to share them, that you do so under Creative Commons licensing. I believe they're share alike, so we just need that citation on there. And yeah, use the sheets to build a program for people in your community. That's the idea.
Great. So everything they would need to start their own program is on the website.
Absolutely. And then one point that's kind of fun is that when you notice on the talesandtravelmemories.com website, you'll see the little suitcase, and inside the suitcase that's by the Tales and Travel logo, you'll see the Gail Borden Public Library logo. We invite you to take away our logo and drop yours right into that little suitcase on all of the materials that you have. So it really does show our partnership.
Great. Okay, so let's see. Another question we've got from the audience. Are volunteers doing the outreach to the memory care units, or is there always a librarian involved?
Right now, we use a team of 3 volunteers on Mondays, so there is no staff member that goes with them. They've been trained and well vetted through our library district prior to going out. So those 3 volunteers make up their own team. And in general, a team can consist of your front person who's doing most of the talking, then your support person who's going around and handing around the books and helping to turn pages. And then you may even have a third person who's in the background looking up extra information. They may have a laptop with them. So if someone turns to a page and really wants to know more about what they're reading, you've got someone there that can do that as well. So there's roles for every different type of personality you may come across in a volunteer, the person who's real outgoing to the person who'd rather be in the background helping out in that way.
And how are you doing the training for the volunteers?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that question, please?
Sure. How are you doing the training for the volunteers?
This is the step that we take. The first thing a person would do if they'd like to volunteer is they go onto our library's website where they fill out a volunteer application. We do have a person who manages all of our volunteers. We're very fortunate here in our district. So she'll receive the application and then interview that person to make sure that they would be a good fit. There are a number of opportunities in any library where you may be working with children, you may be working with seniors, and most people will kind of gravitate one direction or another. Based on a person seeming to be a good fit, they're then invited to come along in the programs that we already have in place. So they're kind of shadowing what's happening. They're able to see what's going on so they can decide whether it's a good fit for them or not. We do have some training materials that they can look through as well, which are very similar to what you've just seen here that explains what Tales and Travel is and really emphasizes the fact of, empowering people and being respectful of them, of course. But then once people have had a chance to shadow, they can be built into their own teams of volunteers, and we invite them to present with friends because, it's kind of like we're having a great time and we're inviting you too. So we want it to be fun on all aspects.
Well, that sounds great. Somebody did ask in chat, you'll notice I changed the slide, and that's because someone asked, again, who do we contact for the libraries in Wisconsin? And I think that was you, Glenna.
Yes, that's correct. You can be in touch with Glenna Godinsky at ggodinski@galeborden.info.
Okay, great. And it looks like I don't see any other questions. I do see a comment from Karen Witt in Indiana, who is letting everybody know that thanks to some funding from us, they're bringing in an Alzheimer's Speaks founder, Lori LeBay, to the Westchester Public Library for their Community Conversations series in March, which I'm very excited to hear about how that goes. And we just have another comment that says, it looks like a wonderful program. Thank you. Yeah, somebody else is very excited about doing this program for their community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's really exciting because we're all a big team out there.
Yeah, this is great. It sounds like you've really inspired people to do some interesting outreach. Looks like maybe questions are starting to die off. So I'm going to switch my share back to the what next slide I had up. Let's see. And I'll do a quick wrap up here. Oops. So that. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I did record the presentation, and once we get that closed captioning up, I will be posting that on YouTube. I will send a link out to everyone who registered for this class with that information. So if you are on the call, you'll receive that, and if you're not, you'll be seeing that. Someone else said that they are. So somebody's asking a question about the tactile part of the programs. Do you give examples, or are those included in the kits?
They are included in the kits, and the nice thing about that is you can use what's already on hand in your own supply there at your library. What we tend to use is one flag of whatever nation we're visiting. We use a miniature, probably 5-inch size that can be passed around. We also include magnets from refrigerators that are about 4 inches in height and about 3 inches across, and they're usually, they have kind of a texture to them. It'll be something that you would visit that's very common. The London Bridge, for example, or the Taj Mahal. Lots of times we'll open a book to a page where there's a map and we can actually find, well, this is where the Taj Mahal would be located here on the map, so that helps with our discussion. And then that's also nice for the fidgety hands to have something to hold and pass around. We also include dolls that are in traditional dress, and those go over really big. Everyone enjoys seeing a traditionally dressed doll, and they pass them around and discuss, how they're made, that sort of thing. Those are the standard items that we'll include, but then it could be that one of your volunteers has been to the Caribbean, and so they bring along some seashells that they picked up while they were there. And so you can always add whatever may be relevant, not only to the receivers of the program, but to the volunteers as well.
Okay, great. And we have another question. Do you ever offer snacks related to the region of travel?
What we do with snacks is we leave it up to the activity director at each location that we visit, because they'll be aware of any kind of allergies or any type of diet restrictions, but we do partner with them. So, for example, we did a program where they were doing a theme. They actually were doing a cruise at one of the locations that we visit, and they stopped in 5 different locations. So they said, oh, could you bring some things? And so what they did was they had a dinner each night. We visited Germany, we went to the Caribbean, we went to Italy. You get the idea. They had performers who came in that was separate from what we did, but they turned that into an entire week-long cruise. Another idea is the spices. When we visited India, we took cookbooks with us, and we took along a variety of spices that are very popular in the cooking in India. So people were able to smell the different smells and relate to whatever they may have had experiences with in the past.
Great. Sounds great. This sounds like a wonderful program. Thank you, Ben and Glenna and Mary Beth, for being on here to talk with us today. I think you've inspired some libraries to start doing this kind of programming, which will be a lot of fun, I think. So I want to do a quick wrap up. As I said, this program is being recorded, and I will send out that information to the listserv, or to the people who signed up for the class. I'll also be sending an email out with a link to a survey about this webinar. Please take a few minutes and give us your feedback. That helps us improve our webinar series for public libraries especially. If you want or need a continuing education certificate, once you complete the survey about the class, you'll be directed to that CE certificate. So I'll include that email, that link in the email that I send out soon. Oh, thanks, Karen. If you're not familiar with the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, and this is your first webinar with us, there are some benefits to membership. It is free. It is institutional and not individual. So if your library is not a member, you might want to consider joining. You'll get a complimentary subscription to the Medline Plus magazine. It comes out 4 times a year. It has some great health information, and it is ad-free. You're also eligible then to apply for funding for health and wellness programs and outreach. Our funding cycle runs May 1st through April 30th. So we're actually getting ready to put our awards on the website and put out the call for applications. And I believe we're going to start taking those on April 1st. No fooling. And you also can order things like complimentary handouts and posters for your library. So for example, this wonderful poster from the Libraries Transform campaign that we partnered with. And if you do Facebook or Twitter, feel free to follow us there. All right, that looks up. Oh, we've got somebody says they're working on a grant on dementia-friendly communities. They're going to be incorporating this, so that's wonderful. Let me know if you need any help. I'm going to switch back really quick to you guys' contact information in case anybody has some last-minute questions. Other than that, we should be all set. Oops. All right, everybody. Thanks for being on the webinar today, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel. Select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.